Hello, YouTube. Hello, the internet. Hello, people that are joining us for this short holding event. Just to let you know what's happening. And do you know what? Let's play the flute first, Jamie, and then I'll tell them what's happening.
Where are we actually live?
Wait. What, are we live?
Where are we actually live?
We're live on YouTube.
No, but which YouTube channel?
Tifo. I forgot to turn the volume down on my computer. That's a terrible rookie error. Okay, Did you play it, Jamie? It's coming. It's coming very soon. Hello and welcome to the Tifo Football Podcast. I'm Joe Devine, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Sebastian Stafford-Bloor.
Hello, Joe Devine.
Hi, buddy. How's it going?
It's good. I've had a coffee and a Red Bull.
Yes, I can't believe you drank a Red Bull. I think it should be illegal for people over the age of 40 to drink Red Bull.
Yeah, so Joe, also, whilst I deflect from your barbs, so we said it was delayed. David Ornstein, our friend David Ornstein, has just reported that the game is due to go ahead as scheduled.
How about that?
At 1 a.m. UK time.
Okay, good news.
Yeah.
That's
so
great. Well,
at the moment.
I was about to tell people, and I'll quickly introduce Kaya.
Hi.
And John's also here.
Hello.
Our plan for this evening, and incidentally, if you're listening to us the next day, this will be fun for you. Our plan for this evening was to, as usual, do a watch-along for the England-Mexico game and do a podcast afterwards. We've just sat down and watched the Brazil-Norway game. We've read a few reports that there's a possible that the England-Mexico game could be delayed due to the weather, and so we thought we got to get something out this evening. We thought instead of waiting around and doing nothing, we would record a bit of a podcast now about what do we talk about on today's show? We're going to talk about Norway's win over Brazil. We're going to talk about following Balogun's red card ban suspended for a whole year. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And we're going to play a rondo halfway through as well. So it's slightly truncated, shorter podcast for today. If the England game goes ahead as normal, we plan to do a watch-along. We plan to do like a very short podcast afterwards to talk about England. And if it's delayed, then at least we can publish this one. And that's our thinking. Did I explain that fairly?
Fairly? I don't know about fairly. I mean, you didn't...
Fairly well?
Fairly well, yes. Yeah. Definitely
great,
fairly
great,
well.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear something exciting, Seb?
Always.
It's 4 minutes to midnight, and do you know what happens to John at midnight?
Does he become sulky?
No, the opposite. He becomes the Goblin King. That's what we've established during the World Cup so far. Is his inner troll emerges around midnight. So if we have any serious tactical questions, we need to get them to him in the next 3.5 minutes.
But does he lose the ability to answer tactical questions after midnight?
I don't know. Ask him. He's
just
still
in a different personality, but you would still retain the same knowledge, and you would still be you with your brain and your big nerdiness.
Right? It's hard to know. I mean, my body gets taken up by an entirely different spirit to the one that usually inhabits it. So we'll have to find out, I guess.
We'll wait and see.
It'll be fun.
What happens in 3 minutes' time? Okay, so there you go. For today's podcast, we're going to talk about Brazil, Norway, and we're going to talk about the USA. So after a bit of time later on, someone will add music to this pause. Yes, there we go. Brazil 1-2. Norway. How about that? Norway through to the quarterfinals for the first time in the country's history and will face the winners of Mexico, England. Hopefully when you're listening to this, you will know who that is. We don't know as we are recording. An Erling Haaland brace was enough in order to win that game, and now also puts him on 7 goals alongside Mbappe and Messi in a very exciting Golden Boot race. Norway also helped by a first-half penalty save against a Bruno Guimaraes penalty, and then Neymar converted a consolation penalty right at the end of the game. So we are going to talk about Brazil, for whom it's been quite a disappointing World Cup. But let's start with Norway, and let's start with the game. John, what do you think happened? You were quite invested in this one.
Yeah, it was a fun game, I thought. It was, on paper, the Erling Haaland game, but I do think that the actual tactical overview of this game is quite interesting. It's issues that we've been talking about with Brazil for the whole tournament, but ahead of this game with Paquetá not being available for Brazil, I think Brazil had a bit of a problem. Like, we all know that Carlo Ancelotti teams are often quite passive out of possession, so they don't press up high. They often sort of sit in a fairly passive block, and if you're going to play like that, then you are going to accept that you're not going to have a lot of the ball. Yeah. It means that when you do have the ball, you need to have someone who can be a low tempo controller for the game. At Real Madrid, he had Toni Kroos. and this Brazil team has Paquetá, but he wasn't available, so they had an issue, right? Which was that they're not going to control games out of possession. Then they don't necessarily have the players to control the ball when they're in possession. Unsurprisingly, the game ends up with Brazil having something like 34% possession in the game.
Which I think would, if you're a casual football fan, who many of the people who watch the World Cup would be, based on the statistics, and they show up once every 4 years to watch football, as is their want, they might be somewhat surprised to see the way that game played out. Even I was a bit surprised by Brazil's performances from the beginning of the tournament. I would expect in every other possible World Cup that's happened before that Brazil would be the team with the majority of the possession in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can talk a little bit about the way that we narrate Brazil to ourselves at this point, because it's been a long while since Brazil have done anything good.
Sure.
I'm sure Kaya will talk to us a little bit about that. But in this game, it meant that because they weren't able to control the ball either in or out of possession, they ended up being quite transitional, and that's just going to suit Norway largely, because as we saw, they have that the sort of physical capacity to be able to absorb long balls. Yeah, okay, no one wants to play transition football against Vinicius Junior or Mateus Cunha, but I think that what Norway did really well was they were able to keep the game very low tempo and stop too many of those situations from occurring. They kept the ball for long stretches and didn't try and do a huge amount with it, but they also prevented Brazil from having the ball, and they reduced the amount of those transition moments where Vinicius Junior can be so dangerous. So I think it was a really good professional performance from Norway, and they've got through to the next round off the back of it. So yeah, this is for me what these kind of games are about. It's about finding the way for you to get across the line, and Norway did that. They obviously have Erling Haaland, which makes it a little bit easier because he took his two chances really well. But yeah.
I mean, if I'm coming to Kaya to talk about the Brazil post-mortem, I'll start with Seb on Erling Haaland. We won't leave him behind. As we mentioned in the intro, Seb, he's on 7 goals now, which is the same as Mbappe and Messi, who've received an inordinate amount of praise so far during the tournament. We also heard a statistic during the game. The commentary mentioned that this was the 14th or 15th game in a row, international game in a row that Erling Haaland has scored for Norway, which is kind of a shocking statistic, I would say. That's probably pretty rare. He's incredible, isn't he?
He is.
And he's so funny.
He is really good. He's funny. He's also a human guy.
Yeah.
Because I think when Erling Haaland first moved to England, a lot of people for whom he was new talked about him in sort of mechanical terms, as if he was sort of a cyborg. Is there a human quality? He was in tears at the end of the game, and it's a.
Oh, I missed that. Was he?
Yeah, we seemed to be. He was very, very emotional, and it was kind of lovely. And you see also the way his teammates react to him, and I think the temptation with a great player like that is to see him as the team. Yeah. Say Norway is just Erling Haaland, and I kind of disagree. I feel like he's an extension of a side. He's used really cleverly within that system. Yeah. He ultimately scored the goals, but I think there are a few instances in the second half, especially where he helped create some chances which weren't quite taken. Yeah. Sheldrup with a couple of clever balls, which one of them Haaland did ultimately convert. So yeah, a great player, but not a great player on an island, if that makes sense. Yeah.
He also seems like, personality-wise, he whenever I watch. Fun. He's fun, but he seems like one of the gang rather than like apart from the gang.
One of my favourite ever Erling Haaland moments was the night before he played his first Champions League game against for RB Salzburg.
Yes, he
took a video of himself driving around Salzburg late at night with the Champions League anthem playing a very high volume. It's just like a really weird thing to do, but in a kind of cool way, that like something that one of us would do, right? If we were playing the Champions League.
He too becomes a goblin after.
Yeah, exactly. And he's never really changed. There's that quirkiness to him that I think when players ascend into football stratosphere, they can acquire a sort of hologram-like otherworldliness. Yeah. One of a better expression is like midnight here in England. He hasn't quite done that. He's very three-dimensional. Yeah. And it's fun. And I enjoy his success.
Well, also, we'll chat after the England-Mexico game about how Norway will cause trouble for either of those teams, which they would do, of course. Let's talk about Brazil now, though, Kaya. A little bit of a post-mortem may be required. I mean, Jon mentioned already that it's been a while since Brazil have done something. I think the quote was good. We can discuss that, but it's been obvious throughout this tournament that this is not a vintage Brazil team.
No, it's time for sort of yet another autopsy of the Brazilian national team. And I feel like we've had a lot of them recently. So since the 2002 World Cup, which they obviously won, they've only got past the quarterfinals once, and that was the 7-1 hammering to Germany on home soil, which, you know, I think we all remember. And the Brazilian national team has been on a real long journey that goes back to, you know, 1970s even, and we've done a video on the Tifo Football channel that I'd encourage people to go and watch about it, but to give you sort of a short précis of it. Back then, their style was obviously completely different, and the kind of samba football and the free-flowingness, which, again, we've done another video, part of our Jonathan Wilson History of Football series, which sort of says it's not quite as off-the-cuff as that, but the style of play was very different to the structured formations of European style, and which was a bit more rigid, whereas they were a bit more flamboyant and free-flowing. And as time progressed and more money came into the European game, players started to move to Europe from Brazil. So a lot of I think in the 1970 squad, every single player played in Brazil. And by 2002, it was just 3 who were playing in Brazil. I think there's a fair few actually people playing Brazil in this squad, but that's kind of by the by. But there's been this kind of identity crisis in Brazil. And even the 94-98 team who reached the final and 2002 team who won it, lots of people say, well, they won it, but they didn't win it in the style that would be traditionally associated with Brazilian football that we kind of all know. It was different. I think people forget that 2002 Brazil team, while it had amazing attacking talent in Ronaldinho and Romario, Kaká, and plenty of others, they didn't actually play free-flowing attacking football. They played, you know, relatively defensive formation under Luis Felipe Scolari. And that identity crisis they've been having has been, should we maybe go more towards European kind of structured, tactical, positional play, or should we try to keep it Brazilian? And for a long time, the idea was, we should keep it Brazilian. And they pointed to Chiche as their kind of proof as to, you know, here's why, because he won them a Copa America for the first, I think it was a 12-year trophy drought in 2019. But he himself was not a flamboyant traditional Brazilian coach. He was someone who'd spent time on a sabbatical studying from Arsene Wenger in Europe and other European coaches. He was more of a defensive-minded coach who kind of looked to, I guess, rather than going all out attack, maybe play a bit more of a considered approach in the way he went about it. And I think as time's gone by, and since Chiche left after the 2022 World Cup, they had a couple of coaches in Diniz and Dorival Jr. who didn't really set the world alight, and they really struggled in qualifying. And I think after all that, the identity crisis kind of led them to think, okay, we need to go down this European route. We need to appoint Carlo Ancelotti, who's kind of been the spectre at the feast for a really long time over Brazilian football, and has obviously been at Real Madrid, but has kind of always been someone who's been linked with the Brazilian national team job.
He's also, it's worth saying, like, this is as throwaway a comment as you can get, but he's like the most Brazilian European national.
I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. In terms of just his vibe.
And also the tactics. His Real Madrid teams, you know, like, I think the story is that he's been like relatively hands off as far as like the tactical approach to attacking goes. So which is this conversation, I think, you know, can become like far more complex than it needs to very quickly. Yeah. But he seems like in some ways the kind of perfect modern Brazilian coach.
Yeah,
or
and also
Brazil coach, I should say, not Brazilian coach.
Also, he knew how to get the best out of Vinicius Jr., who is Brazil's best player. Hasn't quite worked.
Well, I was going to ask, like, what do you think his role is in this post-mortem for the Brazil team? Because on the one hand, I mean, it's pretty poor performances, I think we could argue. On the other, it's a pretty poor squad.
Well, yeah, it's a really good question as to how much of it is his fault and how much a manager can do crazy things. So Seb spoke the other day, if Jurgen Klopp comes in for Julian Nagelsmann, it won't suddenly transform the German national team overnight. We've kind of seen that with the Brazilian team, where regardless of who's their manager, they still have 34-year-old Casemiro running around in midfield, 34-year-old Danilo at right back, 32-year-old Douglas Santos at left back. Alisson is not the player he was. He's still a very great goalkeeper, but he's not the player he was. Neymar, you know, he scored a penalty today, but he's nowhere near what he was, and hadn't scored, I think, since 2023, they said on commentary.
Yeah, and almost wasn't called up.
Yeah.
Isn't this kind of the great contradiction of it, though, right? Because you think of Ancelotti as the talent wrangler, and yet, and the advantage of having him is you're able to put all these egos, all these stars in one place and get a sum of all parts output from them. And it's just not there, right? The talent isn't, especially midfield. I remember thinking after about an hour, goodness, the engine on some of these Norwegian players compared to the Brazilians in the middle of the pitch. Yeah. That's the difference, right? Everything else is kind of garnished. Vinicius Jr. is a brilliant, brilliant player, but he's on the periphery of it, whereas you saw the prominence of some of those Norwegian players. Sanderberg was really... not Sanderberg, Patrick Berg, right?
Yeah, Berg.
Yeah, late.
I just call him
Berg.
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 He was good, Berg.
Odegaard had a really good game,
Yeah.
I thought, as well, and the sort of Brazil had a really difficult time controlling that part of the pitch.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much blame you can apportion to.
Just moving it down. I'm moving your microphone down so that the audience can see your lovely mouth. There it is.
Yeah, it looks like I've got no mouth, right? Yeah.
I don't know.
Thoughts? Question
To
mark?
what do you like? How do we approach like attributing blame? Not that it's our job, not should it necessarily be anyone's, but as far as the question of Carlo Ancelotti goes,
You do love apportioning blame.
I
That's one of
absolutely
the
love
great
apportioning
things.
blame.
Witch hunts and apportioning blame.
I love, but I include myself in those witch hunts. I like to apportion blame to myself as much as I do to other people.
Traditionally not true.
Yeah.
No, it's very true.
It's-
Traditionally,
You blaming yourself for the Brazilian national team exit tonight? Is that
yeah,
what you're
I
saying?
am.
Yeah?
I am.
You could have done better.
I could have done better.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the players and Carlo Ancelotti could have done better. I
Yeah.
don't know if Carlo Ancelotti. I don't know. I mean, mate, John, maybe we should have the conversation. I know it's past midnight. I know it's been 10 minutes and you've been.
Look at the
remarkably
demonic
quiet.
grin on his face.
That's it. Yeah, but like maybe we should have like a quick conversation about the kind of continental part of this, because there have been conversations during this World Cup about this clash of European and then perhaps South American or non-European ideals as it relates to football. I've seen lots of people talking about it and saying things that I just don't agree with or understand necessarily where they come from. But it does seem as though there's saying European football is a sort of shorthand for when the manager tells the players where to stand. And then like non-European football is a shorthand for when the players resolve the problems on the pitch on their own. And I think both of those things happen everywhere, right? Like this seems to be such an overblown conversation. It seems like an easy soundbite, but when the game is as global as it is, and when players from all over the world play in Europe and vice versa, it just seems like a strange argument.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think these arguments have been going back for years and years and years. Like you can see these kind of arguments taking place on the pages of El Gráfico, which is an Argentinian outlet, where they are making similar arguments about, because obviously Argentina is another country where the overlay of like South American cultural identity is just sort of leached away a little bit because of so much European influence there as well. And yeah, the reality is, as you say, like whenever you're talking about cultural, stylistic aspects of any footballing country, it's always going to be difficult to delineate what you're meaning by that. Like where does one thing end and the other one begin? And also, as you said, you use the word globalization. That's the reality as well. Like if you take the Brazilian national team, almost all of those players are playing, at least the ones at their peak, in European football. Carlo Ancelotti is a European football manager, regardless of whether or not he feels culturally closer to the South American ideal. So I do think that there's a temptation to use that sort of over-the-top narrative. I say over-the-top meaning above everything rather than it's hysterical or anything. But there's a temptation to use that over-the-top narrative as a way of, achieving whatever you want to get out of the conversation, right? If you want to say we've lost our Brazilian identity,
sure,
it works. And if you want to say actually the Brazilian football has fallen behind the its European counterpart, you can use that argument and just tweak it whichever way you want. But I do think that it's an interesting question. And, we do the same in Europe, I think. I think it's so easy to fall into the trap of just narrating what's gone wrong. What's gone wrong with Germany? Here's my
they're
silver
not German
bullet.
enough. It's always the same, right? What's gone wrong with England?
It's a lack of identity.
They're not English.
Yeah, right.
They don't play hard enough.
Yeah.
Like, as if
we don't know who we are,
in
right?
other countries.
And the idea being that in the past we knew who we were and we lent into that. But
Scotland invented passing. I don't hear anyone saying that like, oh, we should go back to a time when we play football, just dribble at the goal and don't pass the ball.
JJ says that quite a lot.
It's true.
JJ's the lone voice in that argument.
But I do think there's an interesting question that needs to be discussed about the Brazilian problem here, right? Which is that their players often leave Brazil very early,
yeah,
and they are developed in a in a context where, you know, there is differences between the way that European football generally is played and a lot of what you see in the Brazilian leagues themselves. Now, I don't think the solution to that is to be like, we have to completely eradicate one culture or the other. I think the solution to that is probably going to be something along the lines of how do we get the best out of both of those cultures and try and build a national team where, you know, we're drawing on both as positive resources rather than making it into some kind of like dichotomous argument about we've gone too far this way, we need to go back this way. I just think that's the way, in the same way that I think, you know, whenever inevitably we're going to see these kind of arguments when big European teams drop out of the tournament as well, where the arguments are, well, you know, we were doing this in the past and now we're not doing it anymore. So yeah, I think it's definitely one where it's worth discussing, like, how do you get the most out of both of those cultures? Can you possibly do that? And where do you go next? And, you know, so on paper, Ancelotti,
you can, right?
Yeah,
and we see it all the time. We see this from. I think it's probably true that there are like slight characteristic differences between the way that footballers play based on where they've grown up. We've talked about this idea before that, you know, there's a core of young French players who grew up in inner cities who have incredible close control in a similar way to how Brazilian players do when they're playing in congested areas and dribbling around urban environments.
Well, Spain is another great example, right? Where again, because the players are developed often within that environment, you can get them together and build a team where they're doing that. I mean, I guess you can make the argument about Austria as well. A lot of those players coming through the Red Bull system and having Ralf Rangnick as their coach, like that. I would say that's a way of using these resources at your disposal in positive ways, and I think that's kind of what you have to do. But there's still the possibility. I suppose it can go wrong.
I would say also, like, the thing I find so odd about this conversation, and this is to return to this notion that when people say European football, I think a lot of the time the shorthand is coach tells players where to stand, right? Yeah. Most of the time, like, that's when they don't have the ball, right? Yeah. A lot of the time when they have the ball, I don't think, you know, okay, Pep Guardiola maybe says to his wingers, stretch the play, or did 3 years ago, but he's not telling Haaland, like, take 3 steps left and then take a step right and then shoot in this specific area, right? There's all of this coaching assistance and help for players if they want to improve, if they want to become more efficient. But the notion that in European football players aren't solving problems on the pitch is just insane. Like, it's completely insane, isn't it? Like, how could a coach cannot play a game of football for the footballers? That doesn't happen anywhere, and I just don't really see the differences that people talk about.
It's almost a cliche, though, isn't it? Like, you can't have a conversation with a coach working in Europe. I haven't had conversations with coaches working in South America, so I'm not in a place to compare, but problem solving comes up again and again and again. It's such a commodity that everyone looks for, as the player that has the ability to deal with different situations in the game. That's what makes
like Erling Haaland, right?
Yeah,
the reason that Norway won the game is because they have developed good players. Haaland, Ødegaard, we mentioned Berg. I'm sure there are other Norwegian Bergs as well. Who knows?
Many Bergs.
Many Bergs. But, you know, the reason that Norway win this game is I think they have a better team than the Brazilian team. And I'm sure that, like, you know, when it relates to system and coaching and the style of play and all of that, these things have an impact. They make a contribution. They're not the be-all and end-all, right? They're about the optimization. They're about making your wins more efficient. And sometimes they're about making a whole out of, you know, 11 individual players. But I honestly think the reason Norway won the game is because they had Erling Haaland scored 2 great goals.
If I could refine that a little bit, like, I think it's also Norway have built a team which is a little bit more attuned to their strengths. Whereas if you see the kind of the strengths of that, we talked about this right in the group stage when I first came over from Germany, and we talked about how the ideal situation for Brazil, ironically, given they want to control the ball, was counter-attacking opportunities when you had those 3 breaking players lined up in kind of either 3-on-3s or 4-on-3s against defenders. And that didn't happen very often today, whereas you saw a lot of Norway's play go through Haaland in a very central situation. The 2 Bergs in midfield were very prominent. Ødegaard as well, particularly Ødegaard probably in the last half an hour, I'd say. Even
someone like Sorloth as well.
Yeah,
they have him as an outball, right? He's almost playing like Mandzukic used to play in the past as a big guy on the wing.
And it's a mismatch, right? Yeah, because you're dealing with a fullback in that situation.
And it's worth saying this because you're entirely right? Is that it's easy to distinguish between systems and players, but systems are just groups of players. Yeah. And players are always going to be in some kind of system on the field, right? And yeah, you're right. There is a very lazy narrative, which is the European style is like actually detracting away from the freedom of the players to the extent that they're just sort of like automatized across the pitch and they lose their ability to express themselves individually. But I don't think that you're right. That never goes away, right? It goes in both directions.
Can't go away.
Is that you've got to try and get the balance right between giving them those structural solutions if they want them, but also not those structural solutions not imposing on the ability of these players to do really good things. But those two things I don't think are mutually exclusive. And I think the coaches who are getting the most out of their players in this World Cup are the ones who are allowing their systems to achieve what they need to, right? So we've talked already about France versus Spain, right? Where with France, you just get the feeling that all you need to do is make sure that Elise and Mbappe are going to be attuned to one another. They're going to associate with one another, and they will find solutions between the two of them. You put a very basic system in place. That system is still there. It allows them to do that, and you get the feeling that doing so enhances their ability to connect with one another. But at the same time, Spain are doing the same sort of thing, and they have great players as well. They have Lamine Yamal, who actually we've just done a video where we saw against Austria, Spain as a team are doing loads of things to get the most out of Lamine Yamal. And when Lamine Yamal doesn't do something incredible, there's also other system benefits there as well. And, you know, that's what Spain do. And you know, that's not to say that France is wrong and Spain is right. It's just that different coaches found different ways of getting the most out of their players. And I think, you know, the temptation for me is always going to be, well, let's try and develop a system which gets the most out of as many players as possible, not just the best ones that we have, because sometimes the best players we have can have an off day, or sometimes things don't just fall for them. So, but that's not to say that France aren't going to go very deep in this World Cup, you know, just accentuating the skills that Elise and Mbappe have with all of those other great players around them as well. So that's just coaching. Like there's no one way of being able to solve things. You can do things, you know, meta structurally and collectively, or you can do things individually. And as you said today, Haaland is the difference between Brazil and Norway. And that's what it comes down to. If you have good players, it's much easier. And you know, we can talk about Germany, because the feeling I had all tournament with Germany was they just didn't have anyone performing at that level to make the difference. So even though you can have all of the structure in place, if you don't have those players, then you're going to struggle at this level.
Hey, so Joe, we should say, as a lot of people in the chat have noticed, we do have an hour's delay to kick off in Mexico, England at the moment.
I want to say vindicated for doing a podcast ahead of time. We weren't sure. What a great decision by me.
So that's kind of that's been announced officially in the stadium. So at the moment, that would be I think 2 a.m. UK time, 3 a.m. in Europe, and I think that makes it 7 p.m. local time in Mexico City.
That would be 7 p.m.
Kind of hoping someone's going to take
because it was starting at 6 p.m. local time.
That's
so
the reassurance.
If it's 1 hour later,
that was the reassurance I was after.
There you go,
Thank you very
pal.
much.
If you ever want reassurance, or you just want me to confidently reassert what you said, very happy to do it.
I'll look at you with that kind of needing it.
Kai's obviously fact-checking you now and is going to reveal you're both wrong.
No, you know what? You were right to be confident.
Yeah.
You were right.
Vindicated and
you know
right.
what? It's been a long old Sunday, but at 22 minutes past midnight, I feel like maybe I should just walk out.
There we go.
That's, you know.
All right, let's have a quick break. And when we get back, we will play a rondo.
Ooh, exciting.
Hey, Jamie, can you time code that break? Because I've got to do the editing. Yeah, perfect. Thanks. Okay. Hey, there we go. What a fun break that was. And also, I've realized that to raise my voice and energy to that level requires more than I have in the tank, you know? So I'm going to play a very soft ASMR rondo.
You're like a Brazilian midfielder.
I'm like a Brazilian midfielder.
Yeah.
I'm going to problem solve with no assistance from anyone. I think that's the argument. Right, here we go. Now, here's how the rondo works. I ask a question that has multiple correct answers. I can't do it like this.
This is quite late night for you.
It's very late night, isn't
it?
The shipping forecast is as follows. Here's the question. What I'm looking for is players to score more than one goal for England at men's World Cup finals, not final.
Final tournaments.
Yeah, finals all together. Okay. Obviously, we're going around in a circle. You give me correct answers. If you give me an incorrect answer, you're rejected from the rondo. If you give me an answer that's already been given, you are rejected from the rondo. If you dither or dilly-dally, although I think because of the slow tone of this evening's rondo, you can have a little bit more time than you would normally have. But I'll eject you if you really take it too long.
Did you say more than two?
Huh?
More than one?
More than one. So there are a few players on here that have scored 2.
This World Cup?
No.
Ever?
England at any men's
England.
World Cup finals, but not the final. Finals.
Okay.
You understand what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, John,
Jeff Hurst.
I'm beginning with you.
Oh,
I'm just joking.
Jeff
I know
Hurst.
you've already said Jeff Hurst. Yeah, he scored 5 goals. Correct. Kaya.
Harry Kane.
Harry Kane. Well done. You've said someone that was there while you were alive.
Yeah.
They're going to run out pretty quickly. Deb?
Gary Lineker.
Gary Lineker, of course. 10 goals. Very nice. John, back to you.
Bobby Charlton.
Bobby Charlton. 4 goals. He's in there.
Jude Bellingham.
Jude Bellingham. Yeah. 3.
David Beckham.
David, couldn't it be Jude Bellingham? How many Jude Bellingham scored already? This
He
World
scored
He scored a couple.
one against Croatia, one against
Yeah.
Panama.
Well, producer Ryan's prepared the rondo and then fled the building. So it's possible that it's not. It is possible that it hasn't included, because I think he scored more than 3 World Cup goals. But most of the players will be fine. Anyway, he's there anyway. Yes,
Cool.
Seb?
David Beckham.
David Beckham, you say, is correct. 3 goals. That's all. How about that? John?
Alan Shearer.
Alan Shearer, 2 goals.
Is that it?
Just in. News just in.
Michael Owen.
Michael Owen is there, of course, with 4 goals. Now, the highest remaining player number of goals is 4. So it's going to be tricky now.
Kevin Keegan.
Kevin Keegan is not there. You are out.
In the 70s, right?
In the 70s.
Yeah, didn't.
Fantastic hair. I heard today that a friend of my wife is a fan of the team that she is a fan of because her mum fancied Kevin Keegan.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, Kevin not very well at the moment. So.
Oh, really?
Kevin,
I didn't know that.
He's very poorly.
Get well soon, please. John.
David Platt.
David Platt is there with 3 goals.
Nice.
Well
Nicely
done.
done.
Now that he's digging for the kind of knowledge that you haven't got access to, Kaya. But you do win almost every rondo, so I don't feel
True.
that sorry for you.
Stephen Gerrard.
Stephen Gerrard is there with 3 goals.
Nice.
Yeah, well done.
Very nice.
Thank
No one's
you.
touched the 4-goaler yet. But you have gone very quiet. And listen, one thing I didn't say at the beginning of the rondo is that there's a chance if you go very quiet, I will fall asleep. So that's not allowed.
Weighing up a few options. That's why.
Weighing up a few options.
Yeah, Wayne Rooney was who I was thinking of.
He's not there. But you didn't. You didn't.
I didn't say
him, so
that,
it's fine.
So I know Paul Scholes scored in '98, but I don't know if he scored again. Teddy Sheringham scored, I think, in '98.
Don't think he did.
Did he not?
I don't
Maybe
think
not.
he did.
Look at these old men use memory. Isn't it fun?
Frank Lampard, famously took a lot of shots in one tournament but didn't score.
I wonder if
think
that that goal had been given, would he be
Yeah,
on the
right.
list? I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
great question actually.
This is
4
definitely
goals.
the most chilled
4
rondo we've
goals.
ever had.
There's
Well, there's a
4-goaler.
player with 4 goals on here, but
A really old
most,
one,
most of them have 2.
A really old one, presumably.
No, he's
No.
playing at this tournament.
Oh,
Ooh.
Oh.
playing in this tournament.
Yes, he scored in this tournament.
Oh. You've said Kane already, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you really not think of any?
My brain is really quite ruined.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Let me think.
Well, I think you've had a very
No.
long time.
I've not had.
You genuinely have had a
I've not had
really,
enough.
really long
I
time.
think this is verging on ejection for attitude.
No.
Yeah,
No, not
you're
at all.
really bad,
attitude.
actually.
Not at
We've
all.
never had an attitude ejection
Well,
before.
this is the closest we've come.
But when I
giving you
started to hurry
He is.
him along, he did get a bit
bit
firm.
back,
didn't
He's
he?
like a
Bit of that.
Paraguayan player and you're the referee. Last
Yeah,
night, you've got
yeah.
to do something about this.
Yeah.
Hey.
Otherwise-
Bukayo Saka.
No, Bukayo Saka. Oh, Bukayo Saka is there. 3 goals.
Oh.
3 goals. There you go.
Okay.
Well done.
Is it Marcus Rashford?
Yeah, it's
the
Marcus
player?
Rashford. Of course it is. Yeah, 4 goals. Right now, back to you again,
Oh,
John.
Dear me.
Would it help you if I told you that one of your favourite players ever is on here?
I don't have any favourite players.
Well, you definitely do.
you don't really like stuff.
Favourite players
How about
ever.
one of the players that you talked about loads and said was great loads? But when a normal person does that, it's one of their favourite players. But when you do it, it doesn't mean anything.
It's not Declan Rice.
One of my favourite players.
Yeah. I am now going to start counting you down because the cumulative amount of time you've taken is, I would say, close to 10 minutes of this.
Frank
five.
Lampard.
Frank Lampard is not there.
Okay.
No. Kaya, can you lock it in for the win?
I think that John Stones scored twice against Panama in the last World Cup.
John Stones is there.
20.
That's very
John
good.
Stones is
Very
there. Well done to Kaya. Rondo Del Rey again. The youngest
you.
member of the Tifo football family here, winning it for Gen Z. Well done.
Yeah, it was quite
They're all proud of you.
Quite a front heavy one for me. I went recent. Yeah.
Well, here's other names you could have had: Brian Robson, of course. Derek Kevan. I don't know who that is. Cavan. Derek Cavan.
58.
Old man memories
I
again.
think you guys are
Ivor Broadus. Ever heard of Ivor
Sounds like a
Broadus?
crude joke, doesn't it?
Ivor Broadus.
Sounds like one of your cards.
It does. Martin Peters, Nat Lofthouse, Roger Hunt, Ron Flowers, Tom Finney, and Trevor Francis, of course.
We
did pretty good then.
You did pretty well.
Yeah.
You guys did pretty well. How about that? What a different energy that Rondo had, huh? It was very chill.
It was very late night in a kind of sort of late night chat show on sort of ITV9 kind
Do you think
of
if
way.
we exclusively recorded the Tifo podcast after midnight, it would be a really different show?
I think also if we dim the lights a little bit, it would be a bit more of a kind of,
I don't think we should do
Jamie yawning behind the screen.
Can you?
Yeah.
Oh man, even you just saying the word yawn has made me want to yawn.
We need to stop talking about how tired we are, because I'm tired.
Yawning is infectious. It's actually a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, contagious yawning. Anyway,
It's like a Rondo who's going to yawn last now.
that was so long. I think we should take another break. We'll take another break. We'll be right back after this time-coded break. Yes, okay, right now. As we said earlier, we know that the England game has been delayed. Here, if you're listening to us the next day, what we decided to do was have a little bit of a podcast while we were waiting. And one other pretty huge, I think I will say, Seb, news story that broke today was the suspension of Folarin Balogun, the US men's national team striker. I'm reading now from an article on The Athletic that was written by Dan Sheldon and Adam Crafton.
amazing story.
Amazing story, amazing
Setting
journalists as well.
journalism. Yeah.
Can I say, this is going to sound like I'm tooting my own horn because this is an athletic podcast.
Yeah.
But I'm not one of their journalists. I'm just this guy over here. But they've done a really good job.
They've done amazing.
Everyone's
They've
done a
done
really good
amazing.
job.
And Henry Bushnell as well, who does a lot of stories.
Yeah.
The
What do young people say? They're killing it. They're killing it over there.
Yeah. You really pulled off that young guy energy.
Yeah, young guy.
Yeah.
You definitely didn't sound like you were saying
really convincing.
Playing's the word.
1890.
Oh, guys! Editor Nathan says he's happy to edit what we're doing now. Yay! Yay! Editor Nathan, a round of applause for Editor Nathan. Producer Nathan there, who doesn't get enough credit.
He gets
well
the
done.
right amount of credit.
He gets the right amount.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right. He does get the right amount of credit. Anyway, thanks, Nathan. Right, what are we talking? Oh, yes, of course, the story here. This is right. Now, here's the story, Seb. Right?
Yeah.
Reading now from this Athletic article. Folarin Balogun will be available to play the USMNT's World Cup round of 16 match against Belgium after his one-game red card ban was suspended, FIFA has confirmed. The 25-year-old striker received a straight red card against Bosnia and Herzegovina on Wednesday. Teams are not able to appeal against red cards or the subsequent suspensions in the World Cup. So this is why we were confused about it. However, a statement from the governing body and World Cup organiser, that's FIFA, read, quote, in line with Article 27 of the FIFA Disciplinary Code, the implementation of the match suspension is suspended.
Yeah.
And for a probationary period of 1 year, blah, 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 blah. If he does bad stuff, it will be blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then also here's US President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social after the news had broken, quote, thank you to FIFA for doing what was right and reversing a great injustice. I should say also, I think that's how he said it. I should say also, the Belgian Federation said that they were astonished, quote, astonished by the decision, and that it was, quote, in direct contradiction, end quote, with the competition regulations, and said it's exploring all potential options. Now, we've seen Article 27 used before, which you may want to explain at the beginning of your answer, but not quite like this.
No, so we're going to use the Ronaldo example, right?
The Cristiano Ronaldo example.
Yeah, back earlier in the year, Cristiano Ronaldo received a red card for, I think, violent conduct against the Republic of Ireland. He was originally given a 3-game ban, which would have taken him into the World Cup and seen him miss, I think, Portugal's first 2 games in that. FIFA reduced it to 1 game, saying on account of Ronaldo's good disciplinary record. I forget the number of games, but he hadn't received a red card in
something like 100 or whatever.
Yeah, it was a lot, basically. Ronaldo's played a lot of games for Portugal.
I was going to make a joke that I won't make. Never mind.
Okay, that's great. I'm gonna.
Do you know what? If we weren't live, I would have made that joke. And then Steve said, "Cut that from the show."
What I'm gonna do? I'm gonna press on.
Press on.
Something was not cut. Thank goodness for that. Now, so when that happened, that was the explanation that FIFA gave. I think most people saw through it. It was like, you want Ronaldo to play in the World Cup, and that's why we're doing it. Fine. In this instance, what's happened is there's no explanation for what's happened. It's just we've done it.
Yeah.
And FIFA are entitled to do it, as the article you read out says.
As the big daddy of football.
Yeah, it's within their statutes to do that. They can. It's not a question of appeal. It's just we can reduce this to a suspended suspension. It's not an easy thing to say at 12:30, is it?
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. I don't want to relitigate the incident itself, because I think Balogun's red card was really harsh. It was an accident. But the reality of it is these things kind of happen. And just because they happen at a World Cup to a host nation, it's not any more outrageous. It's unlucky. I can see both sides of the argument for the red card.
Of course.
But this is kind of unprecedented within a World Cup. And Belgium, I'm with them. It's very hard to... It's also one of the other things here, Joe, is forget the specifics of this. What happens the next time there's a contentious red card in this competition? So a hypothetical that we were talking about before we started recording is against Paraguay, Michael Olise received a very contentious, frankly wrong, ludicrous yellow card when an opponent dived and tried to get him sent off. If Michael Olise receives another yellow card in France's game against Morocco, he will then be suspended for a World Cup semi-final.
Yeah.
And that will be completely unjust. Do FIFA intervene again? So that's the precedent that's been set. Whether it's fair, it's a nightmare. It is astonishing. And I know people who are new to the sport won't necessarily understand that. And I completely sympathize with people who say, it's ridiculous that if you get a red card, you should have to miss games, because that's not always the case in other sports.
Yeah.
I understand, but that's the law.
Can I say what everyone's thinking?
Go on.
I mean, let me put this to you. I think it appears to most ordinary people that this is overturned because Donald Trump has a relationship with Gianni Infantino.
Yeah, well, we can't say that until we know that, but this is one of the problems in not explaining why you've done it.
Yeah.
Because if you find FIFA's statement, maybe we'll put it in the chat, it's very factual. It doesn't say why it's done it. Right. It just says it's not.
It's full of other facts.
It's allowed other people to speculate. So some people have said the VAR went against protocol, which is to not adjudicate incidents with slow motion or to show still images. Not supposed to do that. Some people speculating, hey, they just think the decision is wrong, so let's overturn it. Mm-hmm. You got some people saying this is interference, political interference. So what you create basically is the room for all that speculation to exist. You have to explain it. You also have to, frankly, Gianni Infantino needs to hold a press conference with Pierluigi Collina, head of referees at FIFA. You need to explain why this happened. Yeah. Because otherwise, again, if there's a red card in England, Mexico, and it's Harry Kane, and it's the same incident, right? So that's not going to be a suspension then. Yeah. You see where I'm going without labouring the point. It's a mess.
You said there's not really precedent. There kind of has been a little bit of this World Cup already. In the first game, where Cesar Montes was sent off for Mexico, and what I think we all agreed was kind of a soft red card. Mm-hmm. And it felt like at the time, because the referee had sent off two South African players, maybe he was trying to level up the score a little bit. And that's a host nation, and that was a red card. That one wasn't suspended. Mm-hmm. And, I'm struggling to see the difference between the two, because they were both two very harsh red cards, both two very controversial decisions that kind of didn't feel just at the time. And you could argue were both, as described by Donald Trump, injustices. And one suspension was suspended and one wasn't. So I'm struggling to see that.
Well, also, Kai, you have that Messi incident where unquestionably he should have been sent off. Yeah. It was a worse challenge than Balogun's, and that maybe complicates the issue, muddies the waters, creates a situation where, hang on, you're applying favourable treatment to a star of the game in much the same way that people think Ronaldo was favoured with his suspended suspension. Can't believe I've had to say that twice. So the point being, right, listen to us talk about this. It's a mess now. you don't really know what the rules are. And also, it's worth reminding people, refereeing injustice is part of football.
Yeah.
And suspensions that are unjust, part of football. And it's just one of those things you have to live with in a tournament. It's not ideal, but then we've created the framework, and you kind of have to apply the laws. You can't just sort of change them halfway through a tournament, unfortunately. So goodness knows what happens next.
There are some shouts in the live chat for implementing an appeal system, like you would have in other leagues and other tournaments. I think we've kind of speculated in this room off camera that perhaps one of the reasons they don't have one is because of the turnover of games.
You have to really expedite it.
Yeah, I feel like I understand why that doesn't exist, because you could have. I mean, hey, look, if you looked at Paraguay, France last night, you could argue. I mean, how many appeals come out of that game potentially, given all the different things that happened? And then, is it fair? Are you know, with some teams you have a distance between games than others? Is it fair if, for instance, a player gets sent off, a rival, an opponent prepares to face one team, and then the day before that match happens, you reinstate a player? Because that's the other side of this, right?
Yeah.
Belgium were entitled to believe that Balogun, who's a really good player and a really important player for the US, he is not going to play against them. They might have been preparing to face Haji Wright. I mean, put the boot on the other foot. Say Romelu Lukaku is injured and unavailable for Belgium, or Charles de Ketelaere. The US men's national team would be preparing in a certain way. So you have all these difficult conversations around competitive imbalance and disadvantage, and it's a big model. So the less of that you have, the better. Yeah, I guess we're speculating, but it's extraordinary. It's an amazing story in the genuine sense of the word, and brilliant from Adam and Dan to get it. But it's really it's a difficult one to process, because I don't want to be melodramatic, but kind of, where do you go from here? What's the next thing that happens in this tournament as a result of it?
I think any team who gets a player sent off where they think they were hard done by, quite rightly will think, what's the difference?
Yeah.
And any unjust decision, it puts a lot of pressure on any sort of controversial VAR call now. Like, let's say in the England-Mexico game later this evening as we're recording, if something is, I don't know, Harry Kane gets a controversial red card, as Seb was saying, why would England not then try and appeal to try and get it turned over?
What if you take it to what might be a bit of a silly level? What happens the next time there's a controversial VAR moment? It's not about a red card. It's about overruling a goal. Like, I know that's a bit stupid, but that's kind of the door you're opening. You're saying, right, well, we don't like the way VAR is being used here. You know, that some sort of protocol has been breached. So what do you do there? I don't even want to open that box. That's really strange. Yes, and that's a bit alarmist, but then that's the problem. You're sort of retrospectively altering what's happened, and that's murky. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. I don't like it. Worth saying also, though, you know, fair play to Fowler and Balogun, you know, whatever.
Good luck.
I think, like, just want to make it absolutely clear for US men's national team fans watching, or to Fowler and Balogun, good for you. You know, I don't care about that.
It's not his fault. This isn't his fault. Like, he's also...
His challenge wasn't a red card.
I don't think he should be sent off. No.
It just doesn't matter when it relates to what we've been talking about.
I agree completely. I think he got super unlucky. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those VR things that I hate, where you slow something down to the point where you create a little bit of intent and clumsiness which isn't there.
Yeah.
He was very unlucky. He was clearly devastated by the red card, because he knew what it meant at the time. It's not really about the individual players and the team involved. It's the principle of it, which is really troubling. And I think... troubling and annoying, of course, for Belgium. Yeah, very difficult. I think it's a bit unfair on Belgium, because he's a really good player, right?
Sure. And they need all the help they can get.
Of course. So nothing against Balogun or the US men's national team, Mauricio Pochettino. They just happen to be the party involved in this.
Yeah.
But I've never known anything like it at a World Cup.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's the end. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about before we wrap up?
What are we doing? Are we?
Well, I think we're just gonna wait. I don't think there's any point in us hanging around. Let's finish the podcast first. Here we go. Hey, there we go. Thanks so much for the show, Seb, Steph, and Blore.
Thanks, Joe Devine.
There it is. Kaya Kaynak.
Thank you.
Yes, thanking you. And also Jon Mackenzie.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. Thanks to producer Jamie and, of course, to producer James, who's outside. And thanks to editor Nathan for deciding to edit this. Oh, thanks, Nathan. Thanks very much. Right. Now, this bit is where later I'll trim the video to end. There it goes. Now, this bit is just for people who are watching us live. We know the game's been delayed until, well, for another 75 minutes wherever you live in the world, 2 a.m. UK time. I think our plan is to hang here in the office and see if there's no further delay. Then our plans may proceed as normal. We'll probably do a watch along for the game. We'll do not a full podcast, obviously, but we'll do like a little podcast afterwards. If there are any further delays, then our plans may change, and we'll update people as we go.
I've got an update from Jack Pitbrook in the stadium.
JPB in the stadium.
Jack says the yellow lightning protocol sign is no longer showing around the stadium here, but the rain is coming down much, much heavier.
Right.
So I don't know what
if
that
only
means.
we were meteorologists.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great, but also good that the storm warning is gone.
Yeah.
But then lots of rain.
Lots
Am
of
I right
rain.
in thinking it's the lightning that's the issue rather than the rain?
It's the lightning that's the issue.
I suppose it is. I don't know whether there's a safety issue with the rain.
It's the lightning that'll get you.
There were they were saying a couple of days ago that there were also like flooding warnings.
Concerns.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm not sure about the stadium itself, but
there's the surrounding areas, and obviously you've got to look after the people who are coming in and out of the stadium, make sure they're safe. So obviously that's the most important.
And
thing.
every hour of delay is they raise the stadium by another 1,000 meters.
Yeah.
And the
altitude will get you eventually.
Eventually, the altitude will be 10,000 kilometers or something. Okay, what I will say is that for updates on what we're doing, it would make sense to...
The yellow lightning protocol sign is back.
Oh, no. Oh, no. These live updates are torture.
I would say to anybody watching us, go to the Athletics live log of this game, because we've got a team of reporters there. They're providing minute-to-minute updates. You will hear first what's happening from these guys. Like
also,
Jack
though, go to Seb's Twitter, because I can't remember the login for the main Tifo one. And if we change our plans, I'll put a YouTube community note out about it as well. But Seb will tweet and say we've changed them. Yeah. So if the game does kick off at 2, as we expect it to, then we'll try to be here and do a watch along on the Athletic FC YouTube channel. If it doesn't, then who knows what will happen?
Because it's not really our problem, is it?
Yeah. And we don't have unlimited energy, unfortunately.
No, I'm
on that front, I'm caught in a tough spot because I've got a Red Bull about that size.
Right.
Like,
an energy drink.
That is the biggest Red Bull I have ever seen.
It looks like a pint of energy.
Yeah. Well, how many mils is it? Let's have a look.
It's a lot.
473 mils. So just shy of a pint.
That would.
What's 473 mils as a unit? It must be a unit. You wouldn't just randomly choose 473.
Oh, I see. I don't know.
Let's have a look.
I don't know. But if I'm deciding as to whether I should drink it or whether I should hold off.
Hold off.
I think
I'm holding off on my salad.
On your salad?
Yeah,
that's a less contentious decision.
Yeah,
I don't think that.
So. I'm worried that if I eat the salad now, because it's also got some pasta in it.
Okay, yeah, that's different.
It's predominantly a salad that has a bit of pasta in it. It's not a pasta that has salad in.
It's not a pasta salad.
No, it's a salad pasta.
Salad pasta.
But I'm worried that if I eat that now, I'm going to get very tired.
Do you know what it is? It's a US pint.
It's a US pint.
16 US fluid ounces or 2 US cups.
There you go.
How about that?
I can
hey,
Niall Quinn agreeing in the chat.
Yeah,
I can lend you 50 ml
Bone agrees as well.
If you want.
I don't want any. If you're energy drink, thank you. Okay, I think that's all of the vital broadcasting finished. So as I said, we will either be back or we won't, and that will depend on what happens with weather. Until then, ta-ra, farewell. Bye.